Viewing every team in the Serie A from Napoli to Sampdoria. Right, let's go. In first place, we have Napoli. To put it simply, Napoli's season has been incredible. The club achieved 90 points, securing only their third league title in their history and their first one since 1989-90, when Maradona was in the team. Napoli's success in the league is largely down to two players, Victor Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia, a name so long you couldn't spell it, and it sounds like a password, so the fans often nickname him Kvaradona. Osimhen has been crucial to Napoli's success, getting 30 goals in all competitions. Kvaratskhelia was bought from Dynamo Tbilisi in Georgia for €10 million, and what a bargain that would turn out to be. 12 goals and 10 assists in the league on the left wing propelled Napoli to the Scudetto and a quarter-final in the UCL. Some other notable players include Zambo Anguissa, Zielinski, Kim Min-jae, recently linked with Man United, and the above mentioned. Some notable results include a 5-1 win over Juventus, a 1-1 draw with Udinese winning them the league, and cue massive celebrations, a 5-2 win over Hellas Verona with 5 different scorers, and a late 3-1 win versus Inter. Second place were Lazio. Lazio had a successful season, securing Champions League football for the first time since the 1920 season. They had some good spells across the season, including an 8-game unbeaten run in the early spring, but they were unmatched for Napoli. Immobile and Milinkovic-Savic both had solid seasons, with the former starting to show his age, only scoring 14 goals. Milinkovic-Savic proved his worth once more with 11 goals and 8 assists. The club were also in the Europa League, but unfortunately they finished third, even though they finished on the same points as everyone else in their group. Some notable players include Alessio Romagnoli, Zakanaki with 10 goals and 8 assists, and Felipe Anderson. Some notable results include a 4-0 thrashing of Fiorentina, 2-0 win over Atalanta, a 1-0 win over Napoli, and 1-0 wins in the Rome derby. Outside of the Serie A, Inter's season has been a huge W all around, winning the Coppa Italia and reaching the final of the Champions League. Their season started very poorly, with losses to Lazio, Milan, Roma, and a shock loss to Udinese might have put Inter on the ropes. However, they rallied to steady the ship going into the World Cup. Post-World Cup, Inter beat Napoli and looked strong, but they went on a poor run, picking up 1 win in 7, threatening their UCL qualification. 7 wins out of 8 kept them in the top 4, and goals from Martinez and Lukaku in particular, who has been injured for a majority of the season, but came good in the spring, have secured Inter Champions League football once again. Some notable results include a 2-2 draw against Monza, which was their first draw of the season, and it occurred in January. A 6-1 win over Bologna, a 6-0 win over Hellas Verona, and a 4-3 thriller against Fiorentina. Milan had a pretty average season by their increasing standards, only just finishing inside the top 4, and not putting up a strong fight to retain the Scudetto. Only 1 win in January and 12 draws this season have contributed to the lackluster season at the other half of the San Siro. Leao was once again in great form, with 16 goals and 11 assists in all competitions. Some other notable players include Giroud, Theo Hernandez, and Brahim Diaz, set to stay at Real Madrid. Some notable matches include a 3-2 win over their rivals Inter, a 4-0 thrashing over Napoli, a 4-1 thrashing over Monza, and a 5-1 win against Sampdoria. Considering that Atalanta have become UCL regulars in recent years, it was a surprise to see them finish 5th. They too started strong, remaining unbeaten until match week 11, but their form tailed off. Some further mixed form in which they picked up 6 points in February and March combined saw them fall out of the UCL race. Juventus' deduction and a crucial win against Roma saw them clinch an unconvincing 5th, and UEL football. Adamoah Lookman was crucial to this success. Rasmus Højlund, hope I'm pronouncing that right, is one to watch with 9 goals, and Koopmeiners was fantastic in various games. Their most notable result came in against Salernitana, where they won an incredible 8-2. They drew 3-3 with Juventus, they beat Lazio 2-0, they beat Monza 5-2, including a Koopmeiners hat-trick. In Mourinho's second season at Roma, things were more of the same at Roma, as they were unable to break into the top 4 once more. Many fans were optimistic at the start of the season, with signings such as Wijnaldum and Matic, as well as the marquee signing of Paulo Dybala from Juventus, provided a good outlook for the season ahead. However, while Dybala delivered with 17 goals and 7 assists, he and Wijnaldum were injured for large parts of the season, causing Roma's form to be inconsistent. Reaching the Europa League final is a great achievement, but defeat to Sevilla will sting for a while. Some notable players include Dybala, Abraham, Pellegrini, and Smalling. Some notable matches include a 3-4 loss to Sassuolo, a 2-1 win over Inter, a 1-1 draw with Milan, and a 4-1 thrashing of Feyenoord. Now Juventus, a 15 points deduction, then 15 points given back, then 10 points deducted. A very topsy-turvy season at Juventus has meant that Conference League football will be played at the Allianz Stadium. An underwhelming first full season from Dusan Vlahovic hasn't helped, and the lack of knowing how many points the team will be on can't have helped settle the dressing room. This was evident with an early group stage exit in the UCL, as well as only 4 points collected in April out of a total of 18. Vlahovic has performed well this season, however. Kostic, a new signing, has also performed well, as well as Rabiot and Di Maria. Samuel Illing Jr., an English winger, is one to watch. Some notable matches include a 4-0 win over Empoli, a 4-1 loss against Empoli, and a 3-3 draw with Atalanta, as mentioned earlier. Fiorentina. If Fiorentina hadn't started their season so poorly, they would have a genuine chance at European football. Alas, they finished 8th, 6 points behind Juventus. They have reached 2 finals, losing both the Coppa Italia and the Conference League, but their form has been up and down all season. Fans will be happy with 2 finals, but missing out on European football suggests that new signings are needed. Notable players include Arthur Grabau, who has scored 15 goals, Luka Jovic returning to the club scoring 12 goals, Nicolas Gonzalez and Cristiano Biraghi putting in strong performances. Notable results include a 4-0 loss to Lazio, a 3-0 win over Hellas Verona, and a 2-1 win over AC Milan. Bologna. Sinisa Mihajlovic, I'm sorry for that name, started the season as Bologna boss, but was quickly ditched for Thiago Motta. Initially, his team didn't get the new manager bounce, with no wins in his first 4 games in charge, but soon things picked up, with Riccardo Orsolini playing a crucial role. They ended the season strongly, with just 2 defeats in their final 12 games. Some notable players include Orsolini as mentioned, Arnautovic, Lewis Ferguson, a Scotsman with 7 goals, Stefan Posch, who from right back scored 6 goals and 2 assists, and Moussa Barrow, the young Gambian. Some notable results include a 1-0 win over Inter, a 2-0 win over Atalanta, a 2-2 draw with Napoli, a 5-1 demolition of Cremonese, draws against Roma, Milan, and Juve. Torino ended up with a pretty middling nothing season as they secured a top half finish. A positive start was quickly followed by a 5-game winless run. Form remained about as average as you can get, with 3 consecutive 1-1 draws thrown in there. They ended the season strongly with just 1 defeat in their last 6. Antonio Sanabria played an increasingly important role in the squad with 12 goals. Nikola Vlasic, on loan from West Ham, also played alright, as well as Alexei Miranchuk having a decent season. Some notable results include a 2-1 win over Milan, a 1-0 win over Lazio, and a 4-0 demolition of Spezia. Monza. Monza were competing in their first ever Serie A season and were not afraid to make some signings, loaning in experienced Serie A players such as Cragno, Sensi, Pessina, and Caprari, who scored 12 goals and had 7 assists last season. Their season started very poorly, not picking up a point until match week 6, leading to Giovanni Stroppa's sacking. Rafael Palladino was his replacement, and he guided the club to 3 straight wins in his first 3. This was followed by 3 straight defeats. They kept it together and put in a very solid finish. Notable players include Carlos Augusto and Patrick Cuera, putting in solid seasons. Notable results include getting the double over Juventus, 4 points against Inter, and a 2-0 win over Napoli. Udinese. Udinese's season started incredibly strong, and they were sitting in third after 8 games and 6 straight wins. However, the bubble was soon burst, and they didn't win again until match week 19. The poor form in the late autumn and winter led to Udinese's gradual fall down the table, with enough draws to keep them away from relegation. Their results picked up in the spring, but 4 straight defeats in their final 4 saw them miss out on the top half. Beto was their star player, scoring 10 goals. Roberto Pereira, Sandy Lofridge, Destiny Udoki, soon to join Spurs, all had very solid seasons. Some notable results include a 4-0 win over Roma, a 3-1 win over Inter, and a 3-1 win over Milan. Sassuolo. Sassuolo looked set for another mid-table finish in their 10th season in Serie A, and they started the season with a convincing draw with Milan and a thumping win over Salernitana. But 8 games without a win saw them slide down the table into relegation territory, sitting 17th in game week 18. The club persisted with their manager, Alessio Dionisi, and 4 consecutive wins in February and March eased relegation fears. They remain a mid-table side, perhaps due to their lack of signings in the summer. Domenico Berardi proved why he's still class, with 12 goals and 7 assists. Armand Loriente, famously a fancy foot card in FIFA, also performed quite well, including a Roma brace. Some notable results include a 4-3 win over Roma, a 5-2 win over Milan, a 1-0 win against Juventus, and a 5-0 win over Salernitana, as mentioned. Empoli avoided second season syndrome with a solid 14th place, matching last season's result. A 6-match unbeaten spell after the World Cup, guiding them into the top half, was quickly followed by no further wins until April. However, this season hasn't seen them in significant relegation danger at any point. Late on in the season, with crucial back-to-back wins against Bologna and Salernitana, effectively keeping them in the league for another year. Some notable players include Niccolò Cambiacchi, Francesco Caputo, Tommaso Baldanzi is one to watch, and Fabiano Parisi was also a solid performer. Some notable results include a 2-2 draw against Lazio, a 3-1 win over Bologna, and a 4-1 demolition over Juventus. Salernitana. Another side who are set to spend a third season in the division, Salernitana's season started strong, with a big win against Sampdoria and draws against mid-table rivals, and Juventus put them in 10th place early on. Despite this, poor form soon after the World Cup, including a humbling by Atalanta, led to the sacking of David Nicola and the appointment of Paulo Sousa, who stabilised the team, and they went on a 10-game unbeaten run, including a 6-match draw streak. And a solid end to the season kept them 11 points clear of the drop. Some notable players include Boulaye Dia, with 16 goals and 6 assists, Antonio Candreva, Christoph Piatek, and Luigi Seppi in goal. Some notable results include their 8-2 loss to Atalanta, a 4-0 win over Sampdoria, 3-1 win over Lazio, and a 1-0 win over Atalanta. Lecce. In their first season back, Lecce were undoubtedly in a relegation dogfight for large parts of the season. The season started in a compelling fashion with no wins in their first 6, and only 6 points in the next 7 games. However, a couple of wins before the World Cup helped ease doubts. 7 points out of 12 in February pushed them up to 13th, but a losing streak would soon follow, with no points in their next 6, and only 1 goal scored. The team was struggling, but picked up points in the crunch time of the season. Gabriel Strefezer, I'm not sure, has been crucial to this with 8 goals and 4 assists. Asan Cisse and Morten Hjulmand have also played important roles. Notable results include a 2-1 win over Atalanta both home and away, and a 2-1 win against Lazio, a 1-1 draw with Napoli, and Roma. Hellas Verona. Hellas Verona dropped off hugely compared to their stellar season previously, finishing 9th last season. They started the campaign solidly, with 5 points from their first 5, and the only 2 losses coming against strong Napoli and Atalanta sides. However, they would fail to pick up any further points before the World Cup, losing 10 consecutive games in which their manager, Gabriele Cioffi, was sacked. Marco Zaffaroni came in during the World Cup break, and form picked up, with 8 points picked up in January. Their form bounced up and down, and a poor end to the season saw them as Spezia's opponent in the relegation playoff. They beat Spezia in a winner-takes-all match, despite playing the last 20, with 10 men, winning 3-1 thanks to a brace from Ngong and a goal from Faroni. Some notable players include Simon Pirelli, Milan Djuric, Simon Verdi, and Darko Lazovic. Some notable results include a 2-1 win over Sassuolo and Bologna, a 0-0 draw with Napoli, and a 3-1 win over Spezia in the relegation playoff. Spezia's season was very much a tough one, with relegation looming large throughout the campaign. Luca Gotta placed Thiago Motta, but Gotta was sacked in February with the club sitting 17th. They picked up some heroic wins against both Milan clubs at home, and on the final day an injury-time Dybala penalty condemned them to the relegation playoff. Newly introduced for the first time since 2005, Hellas Verona defeated them in a game in which Spezia dominated, but some bad fortune condemning them to Serie B. Some notable players include Mbala Nzola with 13 goals, Simone Bastoni, Dragowski with 6 man-of-the-match performances. Some notable results include a 2-1 win over Inter, 2-0 win over Milan, and a 2-2 draw with Atalanta. Cremonese's season has been largely a hideous and forgettable one, and it's surprising that it took them until January to sack their manager, Massimiliano Alvini, who was replaced with David Ballardini, but he could not prevent relegation, picking up just 5 wins all season, with only their first win coming on the last day of February. The only thing they can be proud of this season is their cup run, as they made it to the semi-finals, beating the likes of Napoli on penalties, and Roma, before losing to Fiorentina in the semi-final in a 2-leg tie. Some notable players include Leonardo Cernicola, Marco Carnesci, Daniel Ciofani with 8 goals, Cyril Desses, who is strongly linked with Rangers at the moment. Some notable results include a 2-1 win over Roma, their famous win over Napoli 2-2 on penalties in the Cup, and a 0-0 draw with Milan. And finally, Sampdoria. The last 4 seasons at Sampdoria have been flip-flopping from 9th to 15th to 9th again and back to 15th last season. According to Italy 24 Press News, Sampdoria are over €200 million in debt. These financial woes and the lack of willingness of the owner to sell, despite offers from Qatar and the US, have contributed to an awful season at Sampdoria. The club only have a few months to find a buyer before they go bankrupt and are sent to Serie D should they go under. Only 3 wins all season have contributed to this horrible campaign. Some notable players despite the campaign include Emil Alduro, who got 5 man-of-the-match performances, Tommaso Aguero, and Manolo Gabbiadini. Some notable results include a 3-1 win over Hellas Verona, a 0-0 draw with Inter, and a 1-1 draw with Lazio. Right, so that concludes it. That's every team's season reviewed. Should I do another league? Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.